on behalf of the board, management, and staff of the Nigerian Exchange, I'm delighted and honored to welcome you all to the maiden NGX Capital Market Conference. The theme of this conference is the future-ready capital market, innovating for Nigeria's sustainable recovery. This theme, I believe, is apt and timely in view of the emerging collaborations, strategic alliances, and developments in Nigerian capital markets, especially as Nigeria works towards a sustainable post-COVID-19 recovery. Earlier in the year, the NSE transitioned to the Nigerian Exchange Group PLC with 3 wholly owned subsidiaries, which include the Nigerian Exchange Limited, NGX, NGX Regulation Limited, and NGX Real Estate Limited. This landmark event denotes a historic milestone for the exchange, as it better positions us to execute our strategic vision to be Africa's premier exchange hub with a robust corporate governance structure. Also, with the demutualization, we're well placed to support the economic recovery plans of the government and contribute to the development of the Nigerian capital markets by leveraging on the many opportunities available to deliver sustainable value to all the stakeholders in our ecosystem. Let me add some context to my opening address by speaking to why the need for the conference at this moment. Nigeria is the proverbial giant of Africa, with a growing population now estimated to be over 200 million, with rich cultural heritage of over 520 ethnic groups. Our country is also endowed with natural and cultivated resources, which unfortunately remain grossly underutilized in sections of agriculture, manufacturing, mining, tourism, entertainment, human capital, capital markets, and so on. As the order of globalization continues to stir the world's economies and new unprecedented issues such as the COVID-19 pandemic emerge in the horizon, it is pertinent for all stakeholders to appraise the current situation as we forge ahead with a collaborative journey towards sustainable recovery and preparing for a fortified, prosperous, and relevant future for our nation. Despite the concerted recovery efforts to return to the pre-pandemic levels, Nigeria is still beleaguered with a plethora of social and development challenges, such as lack of access to affordable and reliable infrastructure, including power, transportation, communication, all of which form the building blocks of a productive and competitive economy. Nigeria's huge infrastructural deficit has been a topical discuss, as it is widely believed that the poor infrastructure is one of the biggest challenges to ease of doing business in the country. With an estimated financing gap of $3 trillion spread over 30 years, the quantum of funding required is huge. And sole reliance on government revenues, the taxes, like taxes and grants, will not be sufficient to fund these infrastructural developments. Increase in taxes is a disincentive, which places more burden on the citizens and could further slow down the economy. Hence, there's no gainsaying the capital market is the appropriate platform to enable long-term fund mobilization needed to bridge the infrastructural deficit. In addition, the capital market provides a variety of financing instruments and investor categories, which could lead to larger pool of funds than other financing sources or options. As we contend with these development challenges, the International Monetary Fund has revised upward the growth forecast for Nigerian economy in 2022 by 0.3% to 2.6% compared to its earlier growth forecast for 2021. While this might sound like welcome news, we're all aware that a lot still needs to be done to sustain our journey of economic recovery, taking into cognizance the debilitating effects of the pandemic, unemployment, local production, disruptions to global supply chains, and foreign portfolio investments. A look at the current trends Driving the economy today shows economic drivers that have a strong correlation with agility, nimbleness, and acceleration. With these trends, we are witnessing new innovations such as remote education, telemedicine, remote trading, and amplification of financial technology services across the globe. Consequently, the exchange now broadly recognizes the need to build resilience to aid both public and private efforts to navigate through the current economic realities. The conference theme encapsulates the progressive pace of change and the prospects it presents as we collectively forge ahead with Nigeria's sustainable recovery agenda. Knowing that this is a pivotal moment, we have asked ourselves, how can we best support the concerted effort from government and private sector to build? The federal government has recently announced the Median National Development Plan, MTNDP 2021-2025, and Nigerian Agenda 2050, both expected to continue to shape the economic narratives for the country in years to come. Both plans are geared towards addressing the development challenges in all aspects by building a thriving and sustainable economy. This will be driven by the organized private sector, while government creates the enabling environment to facilitate growth and development. The Nigerian capital markets should be primed to support government efforts in the implementation and execution of both plans by providing access to various capital market products and services. These include opportunities in infrastructure funds, green bonds, mortgage-related securities, and capital flow opportunities in alternative markets. Government, on the other hand, needs to strengthen efforts to build a fair, well-regulated, and supervised capital markets for enhanced financial stability. For the capital markets to support these government and private sector efforts, it in turn needs governmental support by way of enabling policies and creating enabling environment. Some of these include tax incentives for listed corporates, the elimination of double taxation on some capital market products, enabling legislation for free zone companies to be able to access funding through capital markets, and creating the right legal environment for PPP partnerships to fund much needed infrastructure. Already some emerging trends in the Nigerian capital markets are defining what the future will be. For instance, the recent development in terms of roles and investment in derivatives, green bonds, and sukuk are currently setting the agenda for the future and beyond. Another trend which we cannot overemphasize is the application of technology and innovation to capital market processes and products, and the role of fintechs in the ecosystem. Nigeria remains an attractive destination for foreign direct investments, and we have seen a significant level of foreign private capital being directed to the fintechs and startups. Therefore, we must work together to create a conducive environment for them to thrive. Without doubt, NGX post-demutualization presents a good platform for addressing many of Nigeria's economic challenges, while these challenges in turn provide opportunities for players in the capital market ecosystem to showcase their potentials and advance business opportunities. Your Excellencies, today's conference will be exploring three major sub-themes: driving government's economic growth plans using the capital markets, the capital markets' role in driving private sector agenda, and driving capital markets recovery through policy advocacy. Mr. Temi, the CEO of the exchange, will share more perspectives on these sub-themes when he discusses the key highlights of the conference shortly. I have no doubt that the carefully selected speakers and panelists will do justice to the topics, and we will all leave the event more informed than we came. It is evident that Nigeria has all it needs to regain its rightful place as a giant of Africa, and we must collectively seek out the various opportunities to build a formidable country. A well-engaged, innovative capital market is one of the frontiers to be properly harnessed if Nigeria is to move beyond its ailing state and maximize the opportunities that the future holds. In closing, let me thank Your Excellency, the Vice President, Professor Emir Shibanjo, SAN, GCON, for his acceptance to headline the conference as a keynote speaker, and I'm aware personally of all the sacrifices that His Excellency, the Vice President, had to make to be present in this event. Your Excellency, we're really grateful. Thank you. The Senate President, Senator Ahmed Ibrahim Lawal, PhD, who is ably represented here. The Honorable Speaker, House of Representatives, Right Honorable Temi Mela, Executive Governors of Edo, Ekiti, and Kaduna States, some of whom are joining us remotely, but many of whom are here in person, including the Governor of Sokoto State. Alhaji Abdul Samad Rabiu, Chairman Boa Group of Industries, who is the conference chairman, and the conference sponsors, notably Boa Industries, CSCS, NG Clearing, and other key speakers, plenary discussants, and invitees for their participation. Once again, I thank you for listening, and I welcome you to this maiden edition of our conference.
Thank you very much, sir. Temi has spoken very highly of you and the influence you've had with connecting him with relevant individuals to the capital market and the force that you are to the Exchange Limited. Please put your hands together one more time for our speaker, Mr. A.B. Mahmoud, SANON. Thank you very much, sir. Next up, we'd like to invite a gentleman who is nothing short of a giant in the corporate space, has done quite a lot of formidable work, but we're going to keep our attention on the conference and what we're about today. He is our conference chairman and also our platinum sponsor. We're glad to have him here. He's going to speak, give a few opening remarks as well. Please make welcome. I like the way you started clapping before I did that. Please make welcome Alhaji Abdul Rabiu, CON, the chairman of Boa Group. We're glad to have him here. He's going to come and speak briefly. Keep clapping till all my speakers get to the back of the platform. Please keep clapping. Thank you.
It is a great honor to chair this year's NGX Capital Markets Conference, which is the first major conference by the NGX post-pandemic, and the first since the NGX became a demutualized exchange. I would firstly like to commend the management of the NGX for steering the ship of the exchange in what has been a difficult year for many industries. The stability you have shown through the change process of the organization of the NGX is one that has given renewed confidence to investors and participants in the nation's capital market operators. You have led the way for capital market operators in Nigeria, and therefore you must continue to show astute leadership. I must also commend the organization of this year's conference, which has a very extensive speaker lineup as well as plenary session topics that are not only relevant and timely, but certain to be engaging and result-oriented. These sub-themes, which are centered around driving government's economic growth plans, policy advocacy, and the role of the private sector, are three critical areas that must be explored in our quest to deepen not only growth, but also participation in the markets. This is because as we seek to boost recovery efforts across the world and Nigeria in particular, a forum like this is necessary to deliberate and develop workable solutions on reducing the infrastructure gap and boosting the economy using the capital markets as a veritable vehicle. In view of this, there are questions that many would like this year's conference to shed light on. Can the Nigerian capital market provide equity capital and infrastructure development capital for social development projects with strong economic benefits? This is a key question, simply because infrastructure development is a necessary condition for long-term sustainable growth and development, even more so as the government is pursuing various infrastructure projects to bridge the current infrastructure gap, from power projects to dams, housing, rail, roads, energy, amongst others. While there is no doubt that the capital market can make the allocation of capital for development and infrastructure projects more competitive if involved, is there a downside to it? For instance, Will it extend the project financing process, which may be detrimental to boosting badly needed development? This is simply because investors will be looking to match capital only with projects that they deem very profitable. This may also likely minimize the number of projects that can successfully attract funds within a given time frame and effectively hamper the pace of development. Your Excellencies, there is a school of thought that argues, rightly or wrongly, that the Nigerian capital market system is not deep enough, both in terms of the value and the breadth of its offerings. Whatever the case may be, we must acknowledge the current efforts of the NGX to deepen the system as well as keeping market participants abreast of new offerings. But they need to do more. The NGX must move faster in ensuring that the capital market in Nigeria can do more and provide a more robust platform for both private sector and government participation. As a private sector operator, BUA Group has been actively involved in the capital markets in one form or the other over the past 3 years, with some of the largest successful M&A, debt, and equity transactions in Nigeria, even during the pandemic. We believed in the capacity of the Nigerian capital markets to handle those transactions regardless of the economic headwinds, and we were not wrong. Based on this, I can confidently say that the NGX and the Nigerian capital markets can work to the benefit of the private sector and all Nigerians. But is there room for growth? Can we do more? Absolutely, we can. For us at BUA, we have seen increased value, intrinsic and otherwise, for our businesses. This relationship blossomed with the consolidation of our businesses like BUA Cement, which was listed a few years ago in 2019. When we listed BUA Cement, initially we were thinking of maybe 1 to 1.2 trillion. And we ended up getting a valuation of over that. And today, BUA Cement is the 4th largest capitalized company on the exchange, with a total market cap of 2.5 trillion. More recently, and at the start of the year, in another show of confidence in our capital markets, we issued a 100 billion naira Series 1 bond, which was oversubscribed by 39%. Upon completion at 115 billion naira, this became the largest ever corporate bond issued in the history of the Nigerian debt capital market. Earlier in the year, and just as I promised the management of the exchange, when we were seeking to list a few of our businesses, we commenced the process of bringing our food business to the stock exchange. And I can confidently announce that this process is almost completed and will provide for a more robust capital market upon listing. One thing we have learned through these various activities within the capital market is that you must come prepared and do a thorough job of interacting and participating within the markets. Whilst it can be very productive, it can also be unforgiving if you are not sufficiently prepared. Your Excellency, sir, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as I have always believed, there is a need for increased collaboration between market regulators, private sector, capital market operators, and government, especially in the area of knowledge sharing, policy information, advocacy, education, and awareness, as well as in providing solutions to deepen the current system. Finally, I hope this conference will broaden the perspectives of all participants on how the capital markets can be effectively leveraged to support development at all levels. I wish you all very interesting deliberations and a successful forum.
Next up, I'd like to welcome the man whose event this is, the person who generally, or in essence, invited every single person here to come out. He's been very passionate, not just about the capital market, but about new thoughts, new ideas, forging a way forward for the capital market in Nigeria, and what that means, what it takes to bring confidence back, or to not bring confidence back, but rather to build on the confidence that's been established already. He took quite a lot of time to talk about several details that they're addressing T+3 and how to make sure that changes and becomes a more progressive way. And to be quite frank, he gave me way too much information for a common man. I just didn't understand all of it. I was just like, yes, sir, you are making sense. So I'm going to allow him to speak and be more elaborate with you because you guys are in the sector and more informed as to what his passions are. Please join me and welcome the CEO of Nigerian Exchange Limited, Mr. Temi, Popoola, CFA holders. He comes to speak and welcome you as well to this conference. Please put your hands together for him until he gets back here.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to stand on all the existing protocol. It really is a pleasure to be here, and I've been called up to speak really to the theme of the conference. And in doing that, I would speak first about the title of the conference, and then I will speak to what really is the format for the event. In the title, you will see that we speak to the future. That future really is the future, I'd say, in one part of the capital markets, but also the future of our nation. And when I look at the capital market, for example, you find that the representation that we currently have is of a certain demography. The average age of investors today is about 50, 55 years old, whereas 80% of our population is 25 and below. So as we think of our business, there's that future part to it that we're looking to address and that we hope that this conference also will speak to. How do you get that belly of the Nigerian demography into the capital markets? Speaking about the nation and the future, it's very clear that there are certain challenges that the nation has and faces. Many of the people in this room in personal capacities, in sort of collective capacities, are working to solve these challenges. And one of the things that we're thinking to do with an event like this is to explore how we can look at those challenges together. So challenges around, for example, infrastructure, that's been spoken about quite a bit. Challenges around housing, for example, challenges around unemployment, challenges around even sustainability, which is really not just the talk of the moment, but actually also the right thing to do. And ultimately, we're asking how we can situate that within this, call it future of the capital market subject that we speak to. Away from that, let me speak just very quickly about how the exchange thinks about some of these challenges. We are convinced that a big part of that is around technology. So if you think about this demography that I spoke to earlier, they're all typically on their phones and on a device. They have very short attention span. So whatever you do has to be situated in there somewhere, and technology becomes extremely critical. So you would find from the exchange, and you would find as we go through the events here today, that the exchange is building on a very strong, I would say, tradition and history of technology. We're going to be building on that. For example, the exchange for close to 2 years has operated remotely, virtually. There's been no physical trading on the floor of the exchange. It speaks to a very strong consumption of technology today. So going forward, we would be looking to leverage on that to drive the capital markets, because we think that really helps you address some of the future issues there. The other bit to technology is that as a nation, the one sector that booms is technology today. We wake up every other week to a story of a technology capital raise or funding from some company. And as an exchange, we're asking how we can get ourselves also in the middle of that discourse. One of the core tenets and responsibilities of the capital market, of course, is to be able to drive capital towards innovation. And what better way to do that through the markets into that sort of tech sector. The other bit I just want to leave you with around our plans for the future also is around our drive for retail investors. We think that the capital market should be a place not just for a wealthy few or a few Lagos-based people, as some people like to throw at the exchange, but a place really to create wealth for a very wide population of Nigerians. To do that, we will be leveraging on what I will call emerging trends. Our nation, if you think about some parts of our nation's makeup, things like Islamic financing are areas that you'd see us do a lot of work around because it fits into innovation, fits into our demography as well. And we can try to use to drive this to create a commonwealth for everybody. Finally, on the event itself, there'll be 3 panel sessions. And the way we've structured them is to first panel, just look through how can the capital markets be useful to the governments? Many of the government challenges that we have, how can we, whether it's at the federal level, at the state level, find ways to address those through the capital markets? As a result, you might find it heavy on government and some sort of leaders within the government community. The second panel speaks to a similar question, but this time around for the private sector. How can the capital markets be useful to the challenges facing the private sector? And the third panel is that if we then agree through these 2 panels that the capital markets are useful, how can we then revive the capital markets? We'll find that a lot of that revival sits really around policy as well and advocacy. So that's really what we're looking towards. We are really indeed, as I said, grateful for not just His Excellency's presence with us. As my chairman had said earlier, it's come at very big personal sacrifice. Maybe His Excellency will speak to that later. So we really do appreciate that very much. And we do appreciate every single person in the room, all Your Excellencies. We look forward to a great time together, and we look forward really to a capital markets that is vibrant enough to help drive some of the collective challenges that we face.